And now for the most controversial part of UFC 251, we have Volkanovski versus Holloway. This is a fight where, man, a lot of people are complaining, and we're here to talk about what happened and what the construct was for the judges to give the fight to the champ and the defending champ. Hashtag and still. Raul, what's going on, bro?
Hey, what's up? What's up? Yeah, I mean, interesting fight. Not the first time this happens in the UFC. It's not going to be the last because I don't see any changes happening anytime soon. But unfortunate. I feel for Max. I called it on Alexander winning, but not like this. I was very disappointed in this victory. And I'm sure he is. He's played it out in the post-conference and everything and talked about, like, nah, like, I had the last 3 rounds, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. He went to bed that night like, man, I got really lucky on that one.
You think so, right? And I think that there's an inner voice after the fight that tells you, hey, man, like, you know, that was a close call. I mean, you might have lost that, but hey, the judges favored you. So this is a very interesting philosophical topic in fighting, because you have a lot of perspectives as to, especially in a championship fight, how they should be judged. And a lot of people have this notion that a championship fight carries a different weight to it. It carries a certain implication where if you're the champ, you have to be clearly beaten to lose your title, and all these extra philosophical things that are on paper don't exist. So here you have a judging panel that might think that either way, because it's for many generations, many years of watching fighting, especially from the boxing realm. You know, we've heard this phrase, and it's butchered and it's been beaten down like a dead horse. It's called, you must beat the champion in order to be the champion. I don't necessarily agree with the philosophy as a face value, but I do think that there is some sort of bleeding of influence from that philosophy into what judges see. So we're going to break this down for you, and the way I see it is, let's start by doing this. We acknowledge that a fight, by the way, the winner was Volkanovski, of course, and still, and we're going to score the fight round by round, and we're going to see where the easy ones are, and then we're going to get to what the tough part of calling this fight in terms of judging is. Round 1, we can all agree it was Holloway. Clearly outstruck him, clearly outangled him, clearly did what he had to do. Round 2, same of this first round, right? We can all agree with easy eyes that round 2 was Holloway. They had good exchanges, Holloway ahead by a little bit. And then let's skip round 3 for a second, because that's where it gets fucked. We're gonna go to round 4 for a second. Round 4, man, it was a tough round to call. I would say Volkanovski takes round 4, and clearly round 5. In combination with 4, I think we're easy to call for the champ. So here we go. You have a fight where you're scoring round by round. Each round was won equally, 10-9. So 1 and 2, Holloway, boom. That's 2 rounds. 4 and 5, Volkanovski, boom. There you go. Now, what decides this fight is that 3rd round. And I think that's where this gets tricky. Because I, at home watching, going, I think Volkanovski took round 3. As I'm watching it live, I said Volkanovski round 3. If we agreed on 1 and 2 and 4 and 5, where did you have round 3? Just before I continue.
I had Holloway. I thought he was the better fighter in terms of using the space in the octagon, really going in for the right hits. Yeah, he took a couple. He had a lot of clinch control in that round, which is, you have to consider it if you're really looking at MMA. Clinch is part of the game. Of course, I don't think judges look into that. But so remembering back, yeah, I had it on Holloway. I'm looking at the stats now, and I can see where maybe like they could have gone in favor of Alexander with the 25-12. Significant strikes and all that. But, that makes me question, it's going to be a really good topic for a future episode. Like, who and how is a significant strike being determined? Right? I get it with the whole, yeah, okay, he obviously hit him in the jaw. That's significant. But imagine all the leg kicks that get thrown in one fight. One can make the argument that they're all significant if they all landed, because the whole point of most leg kick strategies is to wear down that front leg. You don't see a lot of fighters go in there with the like that Thai boxing type of kick that's meant to knock the guy's knees off the floor. No, you're there to like boom, 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 get those 20 kicks. So by the 3rd round, that guy is stepping not the same as he was in the 1st round. So I would say all 20 kicks were significant.
Right, but and this is where it gets interesting. I agree. I think it is important to say they are significant, especially if you start to notice that the fighter can't place the weight on the lead leg to start using his combos, right? And I'm with you on that. But I think when you're talking about judging a fight, you have to start defining things, just like anything in life. And I think we have to define, okay, a leg kick we just acknowledge is significant, but it's a more of a chop block approach where you're just chopping. Whereas a punch to the chin is not really a chop technique. It's more of a, hey, if I land this, you're out and the fight's over. So you have to philosophically reward, and this is just me thinking out loud here, like we do the entire podcast. This is me talking shit, but I think that if we're gonna reward one over the other, we have to reward the one that can potentially end the fight, especially if it lands clean. And at that point, it's a matter of the endurance of the other fighter's chin, because sometimes some of those punches were landing super clean on Holloway, and he took them. And I think that yes, 10 leg kicks are great, but if I see that those leg kicks don't really have an effect on the fighter, and the other guy landed about 4 or 5 really good hits to the chin, I'm sorry, they're both significant, and it's 10-5 in terms of 10 leg kicks that are significant to 5 chin strikes. If they were clean enough, I would give leeway. I would philosophically give the guy who landed 5 chin shots the round. Let's say a round existed only where Holloway threw 10 leg kicks and Volkanovski threw 5 very good punches to the chin that turned his head very clean,
Right.
Looked like it menaced him. I'm sorry, even though on paper the significant strikes were heavily in favor to Holloway,
Yeah.
the reality is that as a judge watching the fight and right there by ringside, you go, oof, no, there's no way, even though there's a difference of 5 strikes, there's no way I'm going to give it to the guy who has more just because he has more. I'm going to give it to these 5 are worth more per punch. So I think that's what happened in round 3. A lot of people saw the Holloway volume in this round and they said, wow, Holloway outstruck him. Sure. But let's look at each punch and give each punch a value in terms of how it can end the fight and how clean it was. And you could easily see how now round 3 is going to Volkanovski, which is what I called at home. I'm like, hey, this is a tough one to call. Holloway looked like he controlled it, but at the same time, man, Volkanovski looked to land the more damaging blows that over time builds points that I think outdoes Holloway. And if that's how you see it, which is how obviously the majority of judges saw it, then it's easy to say that this is a 48-47 fight. Easy.
No, and I'm thinking back now, and I'm saying, okay, I probably gave the third round to Holloway because of how impressed I was at his adaptation the first 2 rounds to Alex. And that also makes me think, like, man, see, this is another reason why we should probably be shown the card scores after every round. Because just like how I was influenced, a judge is easily influenced too.
Yeah, so you're saying the judges should have stats brought to them?
No, I think cards scores should be announced after every round. So like refs can go back and use other rounds as a way to kind of like give it to one fighter or the other.
This is a whole episode in itself, man.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But I'm thinking back now.
No.
Round three being so even, but I was so impressed with Holloway the first 2 rounds that I guess it just kind of like bled over to the third round where I kept seeing that. Like, yeah, man, like he adapted to the leg kicks from the first fight. He's using the distance really well. Like, oh yeah, like he really prepared for Alexander. He looks like the better fighter today. And I guess it kind of like just merged as Alexander started to dominate the third round, but I kind of like forgot that by that point.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. That third round was very, very close. So when people say things like, "Oh, that fight was a robbery," it's like, nah. Robbery is when a round, like let's say Holloway would have clearly dominated round 3, and then Volkanovski winning 4 and 5, and then they give him the fight. That would have been robbery. But let's really break down the third round, which is obviously where we can agree where the biggest discrepancy in opinion is, and we can see easily how this is not necessarily a robbery. Because if you look at it blow by blow and you start breaking down the fight strike by strike in that third round, man, it's not crazy to say Volkanovski won the third round. He had, especially, and we can all agree to this, judges like to see how you end a round. If it's a close round and one guy gets a takedown late in the round, we all agree that, okay, maybe you might have outstruck me, but if you get that takedown late in the round and you end up on top, that's it. Judges forgot what the other guy did. Again, given that it was a close fight, I'm not saying a close round. I'm not saying that if it's, yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that Volkanovski came out the more momentum, the higher momentum fighter at the end of round 3. It was close in the significant strikes. Maybe those leg kicks were the difference by Holloway. He had like a couple of more significant strikes. He had 3, 4, I forgot what the number was. It was very single digit and low. And for all we know, the judges could have seen those significant strikes as like, they were significant leg kicks. But they weren't as menacing as what Volkanovski. Boom, you have a round 3 Volkanovski, then a clear 4 and a 5. Boom, that's it. 3 rounds to 2, Volkanovski the winner. So I was going for Holloway. I'm a Volkanovski fan at the same time, and I gotta say, the judges got it right. If they would have given the fight to Holloway, I would have been like, okay, yeah, not crazy either. Either way is fine. And that's how close this fight was, which is why I don't yell robbery. And it goes really consistent with the John Jones and Reyes fight. And that's what this breaks really down to. If for those of you who are hardcore MMA fans, or if you watch the fight of John Jones and Reyes, the same exact thing happened. Okay, the for the winner, and 9 or less for the loser, whatever. That's how you have to score this fight. Round by round, who do you give it to? And when you realize that the third round was that close and that that the judges could give it to Volkanovski, it's not a robbery, especially when you look at it that way.
It's definitely a fight worth going back to watch again, even if it's at least the third round. But man, you but even have like Dana White saying it, where he's just, and again, I know Dana White's he's probably not the best guy to go to for expert fighting advice, but he's been in the game for a long time and he's seen countless controversial decisions. But even he brought up and he admitted to, like, yeah, we need to do some work on these Abu Dhabi judges. It's hard to separate myself from really breaking down fight down analytically to maybe the fan side of me that's always going to be there no matter what. And I'm a huge striking fan, and then Holloway just showed that, yeah, he was getting hit, but that doesn't always mean you're losing a fight. A lot of times you have to get hit to expose your opponent to then counter with something even better. And I saw a lot of that in Holloway as well. And that's kind of, I think, another reason why I gave him the third round. Do you think this is going to have a third fight?
Why would it? I mean, why would it, right? Like, the only reason it would have a third fight is if there's no contender that makes sense, and maybe that's the case. Dana White agrees to it and says, hey, we got to have, maybe not from the mentality of this should be a third fight, but more like we should, the rematch needs to have a rematch. I think that's the mindset, right? Like the sequel of these two fighters need a rematch. I think
Alexander's thing about it, his attitude at the press conference was like, yeah, this is over, like chapters closed, which of course they have every right, especially when the two fights have been close. He probably like fears Holloway a little bit, like, man, like if I have a bad day, he's gonna eat me alive. But I can totally see it happening again. But Holloway would definitely have to win a couple more fights and then earn his right back into the championship.
Agreed. Give Holloway the next guy running up. If Holloway wins decisively with a knockout where it's like, all right, Holloway's back to being the blessed era we know. Okay, boom. But let's do the Volkanovski 3. Let's get this off our chests. But at the same time, I agree with you. Volkanovski took the belt the first time from him convincingly. In the rematch, got away with a very close decision that is very arguable. And I'm not saying that it's not a debatable decision. What I'm saying is that you could have gone either way, and in either direction is not a robbery. Robbery, again, is when there is a clear winner in terms of like, this is just really obvious, and you get robbed versus, okay, the third round could have gone either way. I'm happy with either fighter coming out. That's not really a robbery. And that's why we have to start being very careful with how passionate we get, because as fans, oh, it was a fucking robbery. It's like, bro, just because you wanted him to win or just because you saw it a certain way, no, for real. Like, think about it. Third round was close enough, could have gone either way. That's my take on this fight. I do think that a third fight is, as a fan, I would like to see it, but like you said very brilliantly, Raul, Volkanovski cannot keep risking his defense against Holloway. He's already defended once against Holloway, took the belt from him. It's time for someone else. Let Holloway climb the rankings if he wants. And I hope this is not a situation where we have to say goodbye to Holloway. I think he's here to stay for a minute. So yeah, man. Guys, if you're on our YouTube right now, make sure you like and subscribe. Do your thing. Leave a comment if you disagree. Agree down below. This is at DannyMiami _305. You're listening to As Raul As It Gets over here with me. We are your fight crew here for these major and all events you want to hear from.